Wow, a great big audience here, so very happy to be here today. Can everyone hear me first? Can you all hear me in the back? No? No, you can't. Should I speak louder? Is that a bit better? Okay, so I will speak as loud as I possibly can here. So as you can see from the title here, Mind Mapping Your Way Towards Better English, How Blended Learning Can Enhance Vocabulary Acquisition and Development. A very long and difficult title, but forget about the title. Okay, I am here today to give you, or make sure I pass on 3 bits of information. Okay, first, to reinforce how important vocabulary is. Okay, in this busy modern age, a lot of us forget the importance of vocabulary. We forget some of the basic ways we can teach vocabulary, so I want to go over those first. Then I'll introduce you very briefly to mind mapping. Many of us do some mind mapping in our everyday lives, but we don't necessarily use it in the classroom, so I'll tell you why it's such a great tool. I'll tell you a little bit about the history, and then finally, we'll move on to blended learning, so how we can use online or mobile mind mapping in the classroom to enhance vocabulary acquisition. So, is everyone ready to go on a journey? Yeah. Everybody great? Okay, so let's see. Now, because we're talking about mind mapping, of course we need a map, a road map here. So I live in Uijeongbu. I drove down to COEX today. I got lost around Seongsu-daegyo, took a wrong turn. Gangwon-Bungno was really busy, took Olympic there. Oh, crazy. So you need a map. I should have followed my navigation, right? So first, as I said, we're going to look at why vocabulary is important. We'll talk a little bit about some new techniques you may or may not know. Then jump forward to mind mapping, and finally, blended learning applications. But before we continue, I need to ask you a very important question. Does everyone here have a smartphone? Yes, okay. Do you have a little bit of data you can use today? Yes, okay. Well, we're good. No problems then. So let's jump on in. Now, I remember I studied French in elementary school for about 4 years. Today, I could speak a couple of words of French. Okay, I don't know any grammar. I forgot all the grammar, but I do remember a little bit of vocabulary. I remember je m'appelle, je t'aime, s'il vous plaît. Silence, s'il vous plaît. The teacher was always telling us to be quiet, right? Especially me. I was the noisy one, as you can see. So, but anyway, all too often, usually when we're teaching vocabulary, it feels like rote learning. It's a bunch of disparate words, you memorize the translation, you take a test, it's finished. You move on to the reading activity, the writing activity, the listening activity, the speaking activity. We don't pay enough attention, right, to vocabulary. We need to make it more fun. We need to make it more relevant. So, at the end of today, hopefully you will feel that meaningful learning can take place for vocabulary. Which do you prefer? Just me speaking or a microphone? Microphone. Blended learning, blended presentations. You can use technology. Great. Thank you. Okay, so moving right along here. Why vocabulary? Just to remind you of the importance of why vocabulary is so important. I have a few quotes here. First, without grammar, very little can be conveyed, right? However, without vocabulary, nothing can be conveyed, right? You may not know the correct English grammar, but you can say toilet, where is, that's fine. People want to, but if you don't know how to say toilet, you're like, oh, much worse, right? So a couple of words can make a big difference. What else? All of you have been overseas, or most of you have been overseas. I live overseas here. When you travel, do you bring a good grammar book when you travel? Like, okay, I need to learn the word order. That's what I need to learn first. What about conjunctions in this language? Probably not, right? I certainly don't. All you bring is a little phrase book, right? Maybe there are a couple of phrases, maybe there's a little bit of grammar. It's the words we need to know, right? Nobody carries a grammar book. They carry dictionaries or phrase books, right, when they travel. So what else? A more scholarly quote here. So research has provided much useful information about vocabulary learning and instruction. Unfortunately, what it has not provided us, what we still don't know, is a simple formula for optimal instruction. Why? No such formula exists, right? We still don't know how to, teach vocabulary correctly. Usually, I'll tell you more about what we currently do, but there's no ideal, optimal way, right, to teach vocabulary. But today we'll look at a couple of interesting ones, at least. Now, I have a very short activity I'd like everyone to do, maybe the person sitting next to you, just so it's interesting. So, how many questions do you see up on the questionnaire here? 7 questions. Now, all of us here are English teachers. I'm not a math teacher, so hold on. 5 points times, I can do that. 35, right? So find out your score based on a total of 35 points. So now, but the question is, how well do your students understand new vocabulary? If you teach English at any level, you need to teach some vocabulary. So first question, they find the words, they, of course, your students, they find it easy to pronounce new words accurately. So you teach them, I don't know, combustion. They're not saying combustion, they're saying combustion, right? Easy. Actually, very hard word, but 연소실, right? Yeah, okay, combustion chamber, right? 연소, right? They find it easy to understand new words accurately, so they know what the word means. They know the definition in Korean, maybe in English. They spell the words and write the words accurately. Combustion, I hope I get that right. C-O-M-B-U-S-T-I-O-N? Is that correct? Hopefully, okay. Tell me if I'm wrong, right? They understand the meanings of new words at first glance. That would be tough. Combustion, noun form of combust. Very hard, okay. Combust, that your students probably wouldn't know. They can work out the meanings of new words. They can understand new words even in unfamiliar contexts. So a word maybe has multiple meanings. Can they figure out other meanings? And finally, they can see the roots of new words in words they already know. Okay, so this can lead students astray though. Like the word combustion, they're like, oh, I know what comb is. It means comb your hair. Combustion. Dang, right, it's a wrong root. There's no such root there, right? So lots of issues that can come up. So anyway, don't worry about my explanations there. Work with your partner, see how many points you get out of a total of 35 points. I'll give you maybe 1 minute, so get started. See, based on your students, the students you teach. So whenever you're ready, just shout out the score. Raise your hand, shout them out. Remember, the maximum number of points is 35. So 5 is always, 0 is never. So it should be in the handout as well. How well do your students learn vocabulary? Yes. How many? 7 out of 35. Oh my, okay. Hopefully today's, my students would probably get a similar score, I don't know, but certainly, yeah, so we definitely need new skills, right, to teach vocabulary. Anyone else? 7 points. 1 or 2 other people. Somebody, yes, the lady in, do I see a hand up? Nope. Okay. 14, okay, so high, low. Anyone else? 20, 11, okay, so you see lots of different scores here, depending, of course, on the level of your students, if vocabulary is a priority, how you teach vocabulary. So my job today is to make sure that score, if it's low or high, at least it goes up, right? To make your students better at acquiring vocabulary. So moving right along here. How important is vocabulary? Okay, important in many different ways here. I have a very short and very difficult text, probably middle or high school level here, so possibly university level as well. So imagine I am a, I don't know, second, maybe third year 고3 student preparing for the 수능. I'm looking at all these passages. I didn't have enough money maybe to go to Hagwons. My parents don't speak English. I've never been abroad. And I look at this text in my book and I'm like, okay, I can read this. I can read. So like many other ancient, that's a difficult word. I'm going to skip it. I don't know that one. I can't pronounce it. I don't know what it means. Another hard word. Egypt. I know Egypt. It's a country in Africa. Developed around the river, okay, the Nile River, I know that, good. We just learned it in the last presentation. It is the country's, don't know that word. You see the idea, right? So your students, when they see this, they'll be like, oh my gosh, I don't know this word, I have to jump over it, I don't know what it means. So look at that. Can anyone really figure out what this passage means? Most certainly not, right? So this is before you teach the words. Now, what's going to happen after you teach the words? Let's have a look. So after the vocabulary is taught, I can see clearly now the words are there, right? So, like many other ancient societies, that's a tough word. So your students might know the word social, SNS, right? Social networking. They might know the word society. Maybe you taught them. They could figure that out. Civilization, that's a very tough word. But do you know where students learn that word, civilization? There's a great video game. I played it when I was younger. It's still popular. Sid Meier's Civilization. It's a great game. Many of my students are like, oh, teacher, I know. I played a game. I was like, you and me both, right? So, ancient Egypt. Easy enough word to teach. Old. Let's see, what else? It is the country's lifeblood. That's a very, very hard word, right? But you can teach it. Split it in half, right? Life and blood. You need blood to live. Fairly easy, right? The river provided a regular, most students would know that, some might not, supply of water in a land that had virtually no rain. Virtually, very tough, right? Almost no rain. Virtually has other meanings too. Very tough word to teach. It's annual floods, annual every year, yearly, right? Hopefully not once per year, but at least once or twice a year. Floods, irrigated, very tough word. Most of your students would know that. The fields in which the crops were planted. Crops, plants, vegetables, food that you grow, right? So now it all makes sense. So that's the difference. That's why vocabulary is important, right? So that's the student view of vocabulary. But of course, as teachers, some of us like teaching vocabulary, some don't. Some people skip vocabulary, some people spend the full class on vocabulary. Well, before we look at what other teachers feel, how other teachers feel about vocabulary, let me see a show of hands. How many of you here today like teaching vocabulary? I see one hand, 200 some people, 200 plus teachers, I see one hand. The lady there, sorry to call on you, why do you like teaching vocabulary? That's great, but why? Oh, sorry, sorry. I was looking at the wrong person. Embarrassing, okay. Yes, ma'am. Yes, exactly. It helps them understand. For all four skills, your students need vocabulary, right? I teach graduate level students. Some of them are older than me, and they're still learning vocabulary, right? They still need to expand their vocabulary. So any level, kindergarten all the way to graduate school and older folks, they still need vocabulary. But a lot of teachers, I didn't raise my hand, don't like teaching vocabulary, okay? So here are some anonymous thoughts on teaching vocabulary. Number one, I think vocabulary is relatively easy. It's the relatively easy part of language teaching. Do you? Is it easy? No, I find it quite dry usually. It's grammar that's difficult. That's true. Grammar is hard. I generally teach vocabulary before we do reading and listening. Is that true? Yes, okay. Vocabulary usually comes first, right? You need it when you travel, you need it for everything. Next, the whole question of vocabulary is difficult. I agree. Just because there is so much of it, where do you start? We're going to talk about how many words students need to know. There's so much to learn, right? How many words do you normally have per chapter in your English vocabulary? How many do you teach? Maybe anywhere from 5. I've seen books that have 20, 25 words, right? Per chapter, per reading. That's a lot of words, right? We need some special tools, right? Number 4. The most important thing is to recycle, to repeat vocabulary, right? Just like for reading, you need to do it over and over again. Number 5, I try to make vocabulary learning fun. We're going to make it fun today. Okay, I'll teach you minimum 2 tools, possibly more. Using vocabulary is one thing, teaching it is another. Okay, once students learn it, it's no big deal. They know it, but actually getting them to learn it, a lot of students don't want to learn vocabulary, right? So moving on. This you've probably seen before, but I want to emphasize how little vocabulary students need to learn, ultimately, right? So, high-frequency vocab, the kind of stuff we saw in the readers in the previous presentation, approximately 2,000 words. That covers a humongous, an astounding 87% of all words used in English texts, right? Then there are some 800 academic words. If your students, are going overseas, if they are going to take the IBT TOEFL, maybe they would need to know those words. Technical words, if they're studying to be computer engineers, etc., maybe they need to know. So the total number of words your students need to learn, maximum number, is about 4,800 words, maximum. But most students only need to learn approximately 2,000 words. So out of 128,000 words in the OED, as far as I know, that is not too bad, right? That's all of what? They need to learn approximately 1 in 60-some English words, right? So the job is not as difficult as we imagine it to be. It can be done, right? Moving on. 2 approaches to teaching vocabulary. And today's the blended learning mind mapping is kind of a mix of the two approaches, but there's explicit vocabulary teaching. So if you need to teach the students the definition, maybe an antonym, a synonym, very basic stuff. And there's also incidental, and we're going to come back to this word. Remember it when we look at the acronym IVA. So incidental vocabulary acquisition should be encouraged through explicit instruction and for learning additional vocabulary. So you're trying to approach vocabulary directly and also indirectly. So is one approach better than the other? Not really. You need to cover both, okay? And we're going to look at some ways soon. So how is vocabulary taught? Let's have a look. A couple of different ways. I've highlighted the ones that I feel are important. You may agree, you may disagree. First and foremost, pronunciation. Especially as a native speaker, I find the students want to know the pronunciation. Even across any level, students want to repeat the word. They get it wrong, they try again, right? Derivations, inflections, you can usually skip. Not quite as important. Spelling is really important, especially if you give dictation tests, right? Basic and literal meanings. What does the word really mean? Happy is an emotion. Sad is an emotion, right? Cat is an animal. A cat is an animal. There are also derived and figurative meanings. A cat can also be someone who's a little bit sly. Oh, he's a fast cat. Someone who maybe isn't not quite direct, right? Semantic relation, we'll skip that. Connotation. So sometimes words have a slightly different meaning from what you find in the dictionary. That can be important too. Subcategorization, less important. Collocation, okay, which words need to come together, right? So you wouldn't necessarily say a joyride park, you would say an amusement park, right? That's a noun in and of itself too. And also slang and idioms. I find students love learning slang and idioms, right? The other stuff we usually skip, not quite as important, right? Moving on. Now, presentation phase. So when you first teach vocabulary, you as the teacher, you're presenting. And then later on you practice, right? But we spend a lot of time looking at the presentation stage. I'm not going to go into these, just give you some examples, okay? So the word I talked about before, cat. We'll choose the easiest word there, cat. I'm going to show you a couple of different ways, I'm sure which you all use. These are all easy techniques that you would use to teach vocab. So cat, concise, detailed definition. A cat is an animal, very simple, right? More detailed definition. A cat is a domestic animal that usually lives at home, right? Fairly simple there. Illustration. Okay, I draw a big cat. I'm not a good artist, so I ask students to draw stuff. Demonstration. Okay, this is embarrassing. Meow, meow, meow. So, cat, you can demonstrate it. Students love when teachers make fools of themselves, right? So, laugh, as the previous gentleman said, humor is good, right? Context. Oh, dogs don't like cats, right? That's a pretty easy one, right? A story. Dogs don't like cats. A long time ago, cats descended from, tigers or the big cats, right? So a story or a sentence, very simple. Synonyms. That's tough. Cat. Can anyone help me out here? A cat. Oh, bad idea. Okay, I don't know. Little cat? No. Pussy cat? Kitten? Okay, kitten, it's technically different, but it could be used as a synonym, right? Opposites. Oh, that's tough too. It's not as easy as I had expected. Opposites, dog? Technically, I don't know, not really, but it could work, right? So it's all much trickier than you imagine, right? So antonyms, a more formal word for opposites there. Korean translation, this, I know some people don't like using L1 in the L2 classroom. I say, never mind. If you know the word, if some students don't get it, just tell them, 고양이, right? It's pretty easy. So, associated ideas, tigers, cat food, kitty litter, right? I don't know, purring, meowing, right? Lots of associated ideas too. So that's maybe how you would teach the word cat. Not all of them applied, as you could saw synonyms, opposites, tricky, right? Maybe an adjective, happy, sad, that would be easy, but not as easy as it first looks, right? So what I'm going to do is next show you a whole range of different ideas for teaching vocabulary the old-fashioned way that you kind of need to do. This is part of the explicit vocabulary teaching, not the incidental or implicit. So you have to do these. They're not necessarily fun, but they're good ways for students to learn vocab. So I'll just read as if I were a teacher, right? Look at the text in front of you. Scan down the page and identify keywords or phrases. So your students are looking at a text. They're like, okay, they don't know the meaning. They haven't read the text. Maybe they've listened to an introductory passage. Who knows? They circle the words. They try and scan, find the words they don't know. Circle any words you don't understand. the stuff they don't know. That's what you have to focus on, right? Scan. So circle, highlight stuff, typical stuff. Next, you might say, read, or spell the words aloud. So I chose a difficult word, inundation here, like a flood of water, inundation of blah, blah, blah. So everyone repeat the word. Let's practice. Inundation. Inundation. Great. Inundation. Inundation. Great. Okay, so pretty easy stuff. And then you might do it in different ways. Have the boys practice, the girls practice, work in pairs, whatever. Pretty easy. Choral repetition would be the fastest, of course. Next, you might say or write it for spelling, too. So the word button, very hard word to pronounce, very easy word to read, but you could teach your students butt on, right? Butt on. But the students will laugh. It's a good time. Yacht. I hate that word, right? When I was a student, I could never spell it right. I hope I still can. I can spell it now, I hope. But anyway, Y-A-C-H-T, yacht, right? It's definitely not phonetic, hard word to spell. You might have the students write it in their glossary or vocabulary journal. I encourage all of you, tell your students, keep a vocab journal, right? You might also add the keywords or meanings. So for example, if you're teaching feelings, okay, students, copy the words happy, sad, angry into your glossary. Very simple activity. In your own words, write a definition and then copy down the definitions we worked out. So you might have the definitions on the whiteboard, but first, before you show your students, have them guess the definitions. In English, have them write a very short definition, right? So there's a nice little table. The word happy, my definition, not sad. Happy, class definition, a feeling you have when you are glad, maybe. Very simple stuff, right? Find synonyms and antonyms. Now, much easier than cat, right? What is a synonym for happy? Can anyone tell me? Glad. Sorry? Oh, no, synonym, sorry, same word, like a similar word. Yeah. Glad, I heard someone say, what else? Please, good. So not quite, but very close, right? So any words that are very similar or even a little similar is fine, right, for a synonym. How about an antonym, the opposite word? Sad, unhappy, not pleased, etc. Very good. So this is a great activity too. I'm sure you all do this. Very simple stuff, again, in your vocabulary journal, right? So visualize images also. So you like the word happy. If you have elementary school students, don't do this with high school, of course. It's a little bit too easy. You might have the movie Happy Feet. You might draw a picture. Happy hour for adults, right? So I'm happy during happy hour, right? You can draw some stars if you're a kid. Birthday cake. Everyone's happy when they have a happy birthday. Jumping on a trampoline. Those are always fun as well. So drawing pictures, even for adults. Some adults enjoy drawings, maybe doing a doodle or drawing some quick pictures. So you might ask your students, when I say the word happy, what pictures appear in your head? Draw them down. Everyone draw one picture, for example, right? Very simple activity as well. And then finally, this is usually the last stage, use the new words in a sentence. This is a whole other level of difficulty, right, for students. So say the word happy in a meaningful sentence. I don't know, I'm happy today. He is happy because it's his birthday, fairly easy. Where else would you use the word? Now use the word happy in a different sentence, right? I'm not happy. You can make negative sentences. I'm not happy because my microphone broke, or etc., right? In 10 minutes, this is, of course, for more advanced kids. In 10 minutes, write a short story using the words we've just added to the glossary. So remember, we added happy, angry, sad, and angry was there too, right? Happy, sad, and angry. Make up a story about yourself, make up a story about your friend. Very easy activities. This is the old way we taught grammar, right? We still need to do it. Students still need to learn this kind of stuff, but there's a lot more stuff we can do, and I'm going to jump on to that now. So, some other ways you can reinforce vocabulary, songs and games, right? A couple of years ago, I used the OED when I was teaching elementary school, the OUP, sorry, OED is the Oxford English Dictionary. I'm, by the way, not an Oxford rep, but I still use a lot of, it's a great company, so OUP product, Let's Go, I'm sure you've all heard of it. The songs there are great, like, how's the weather, it's sunny, how's the weather, it's rainy. So songs and games, great stuff. Reinforces vocabulary, right? Keyword method, you can draw keywords, write a bunch of keywords. We're going to do that later. Vocabulary exercises, fill in the missing word, close exercises. Regular review, assessment, testing. We all do testing. No one likes it, has to be done. Extensive reading, you learn more words. Communicative activities, speaking activities, good stuff. Have you guys played the game Taboo? Taboo, where students, for example, I'm sitting on a chair and there's a picture of kimchi in the back of me, or behind me, there's a picture of kimchi. And you have to describe kimchi to me, but you can't use the word kimchi. So how would you describe it? Spicy, Korean food, pickled cabbage, fermented food, etc. Right? So that's a great game too. So that's called taboo. So great game. But unfortunately, we can't play taboo for 1 hour. We need to learn more stuff. So we'll move on. Incidental. Remember I mentioned the word incidental earlier? Incidental vocabulary acquisition. Now this is a real technique, IVA, and it helps students learn new vocabulary, learn what they mean in a kind of indirect way. And that's what mind mapping is. Okay, and we're going to do two forms of mind mapping. But the first, easiest type of mind mapping you can do in a vocabulary lesson is LLG. List, label, and group. Okay, it's kind of a basic elementary form of mind mapping. And we're going to do a little bit of that today. Okay, so now on the next slide, we're going to look at a very easy reading here. And we're going to take a look at some of the, not the next slide. I'm going to show you two other methods first, and then we're going to look at how to use LLG here. So list, label, and group. But first, some other activities I recommend, and this is just two activities here. The first one is making sentences using words. Okay, I love visual stuff. That's why I like mind mapping. I use it in my classes. Students don't like it, but I like it. They find it difficult. I mean, they like it, but it's not easy, and I'll tell you why later. But I love visual techniques here. So Jay is going on a business trip soon. They could have made another sentence, right? But that is basically the only one that works there. You might say like Jay has business. That would work too, right? Jay enjoys business, right? Jay enjoys business class. Ooh, I like business class too. So anyway, that's one activity. There's one other one that I really like, odd one out. So pick the word that does not belong. So if you're teaching the word order, the verb form order, right? So let's take a look at A. Order, command, advise, and demand. Okay, those are all very similar, but the one that's slightly different, the one that's not quite as strong, would be advise, like a suggestion, right? Instead of order, command, demand, those are all very strong. You have no choice, right? You have to obey. B, order, tell, instruct, and suggest. Order, tell, and suggest, I don't know. They're not quite the same, but they're synonyms. But what about instruct? That means to teach. Order, teach. A little bit different. So that would be the odd man out. And then finally, order, obey, ask. If I give you an order, do you ask me about it or do you obey usually? Obey, right? So very simple stuff. These help students kind of visualize or understand what the exact meaning of the word is, right? And so these two, draw a picture, to draw lines to make sentences, and also odd man out, or the odd one out. So those are excellent there. Now, moving on to IVA here and then LLG. So let's look at the definition of incidental vocabulary acquisition here. Is the learning of new words as a byproduct of a meaning-focused communication activity. So if you have students copy vocabulary, is that a meaningful activity? I mean, they might learn the words, but does it feel meaningful to the student? Not really, right? But if you give them a meaningful activity like drawing a mind map or listing words, grouping words, labeling words, right, then it feels more meaningful. So IVA occurs through multiple exposures to a word in different contexts. So they learn new words, they use it in a different place, they learn a synonym, they learn an antonym, etc. Right? So IVA is kind of the foundation for mind mapping here. Now, the advantages. We won't read the whole definition here, or we won't read the whole advantage. Just learn a very quick definition here. More individualized and learner-based. Okay, so normally when you're teaching students vocabulary, you give them the definition. You teach them a song. You play the game, right? They might participate, but you're doing all the work. How about in mind mapping? Who's doing all the work? The students, right? That's how it should be. Does everyone have the same mind map? No, it's individualized, it's customized, it's personal, right? It's the students, or in groups, in pairs, or even alone, have to create their own mind map, right? It's also pedagogically efficient. It enables two activities. In this case, vocabulary acquisition, and also learning how to structure your thoughts, your brain process better in the case of mind mapping. So it's efficient. You're doing two activities at the same time, right? So that's why IVA is good for your kids there. Now, This is, as I said, very rudimentary, very easy mind mapping here. List, group, label. Sorry, I think I gave you the wrong name before. It's list, group, label here. So first we have to list the words. We just write them in a list as you would normally. Then you group the words to create kind of your different branches for your mind map. And then finally you would label them in a mind map to structure them, right? So it's LGL, my bad, earlier. Sorry, so list. Brainstorm ideas related to a topic. Now, today's topic will be volcanoes. So think of any words that remind you of volcanoes. Can anyone shout them out to me? Lava, good. What else? Explode, excellent. What else? Hot, good. Maybe Jeju Island, extinct. Extinct, an old volcano, right? So good stuff there. Keep the list manageable. Make sure you don't have like 50 words. That's too much. Maybe 5 or 10, maybe 15, just as you would normally. Group the words. Organize terms into smaller groups of related words. So, for example, the word lava. What would be another similar word to lava? Hot, maybe molten lava, right? So you need words that maybe are similar there. Finally, you would label the groups. Volcanoes, famous volcanoes. You might have adjectives, what a volcano is like. It's big, it's hot, it's full of lava, right? And then follow up. You can also discuss the new words there. Sorry, the typo, there should be an extra S. And also some semantic mapping where you're drawing. That's been covered, of course, before, but mind mapping is somewhat different from semantic mapping. We won't worry about that today, but there are many other follow-up activities you can do. Moving on here. Now, like I said, so LGL, not LLG, my bad. So list them first. So let's take a look at the words. We have lava. We have explode. We have fire. Magma. Oh, I forgot about magma from the core, right? Super hot stuff. Mount St. Helens, very famous volcano. Eruption. Okay, it explodes, it erupts, right? Ash comes out, blackened ash at the end there. Pompeii in ancient Rome, right? Famous extinct city. Dust. Lots of dust in the atmosphere. Death, people die. In Pompeii, everyone died, right? Earthquake, sometimes an earthquake follows a volcanic eruption. Cinders, hot cinders after a volcano. Smoke, rocks, heat, lots of words there, okay? So we have how many words? Can anyone tell me? How many? 15, perfect. So sounds like a typical number of words, right, in a vocabulary lesson. So you could probably guess this reading is about volcanoes, right? So now we need to group them though. So what comes out of a volcano? Lava, ash, rocks, dust, smoke. Famous volcanoes, Pompeii, Mount St. Helens, right? The results of a volcano, it explodes, it erupts, people die, it's awful. And the volcanic parts, we have lava, we have fire, cinders, magma, ash, right? Ash, I guess, part of a volcano, also the result of a volcano. So there's some ambiguity here, but as a teacher, you can decide. So now that we've listed the words, we've grouped the words, what do we do next? Label, very good. And of course, we have a rudimentary mind map. Now I'm going to teach, there's some more steps to make it a real mind map, but for now, if you're teaching like your students just basic mind mapping techniques, what goes in the middle? Let me ask you guys, what goes in the middle there? The main topic, right? Very common sense stuff. And then we have a couple of branches. And every student, every class could have different branches. So we have things that come out, famous volcanoes, volcanic parts, results of volcanoes. You'll notice all of the branches, I'll go back here, match the different groups that we found when we were grouping the words, right? So, and then we nicely draw them there. Pretty easy stuff, right? Very basic mind mapping here. But before we move on, before I teach you quote-unquote real mind mapping, what are some issues perhaps with this mind map? Does it look really pretty? Not really, right? It's a fairly simple mind map. It's hard to distinguish which one is which, so we'll try and get through those. We'll find solutions for those when we learn about real mind mapping next year. Okay, so that was the hardest part, the very fast part. So we've learned how and why we need to teach vocabulary. Now I'd like to introduce mind mapping, the official way that people can mind map. So are you guys ready? Yeah. Okay, very good. So first a little history, then we'll look at paper-based mind mapping, some advantages, why people like mind mapping, and finally, simple mind maps for the classroom. And for me, part B is the most important because all too often, when students draw a mind map, all you see is this kind of mind map. A couple of random words in a random random group that doesn't really make much sense. But I'm going to show you a whole bunch of mind maps that are for grammatical structure, for synonyms, for antonyms, etc. So this way you'll have a much better idea of what you can use mind maps for. So let's have a look. So what is a mind map? First, a mind map is a visual form of note-taking. So the whole reason I want you guys, all of you, to use mind maps in your classroom is so that students don't make a list of vocabulary, right? That is 20th century. We don't need to be doing that anymore. We need a new tool. That tool is mind mapping, right? A visual form of note-taking that can be done individually, in pairs, or as part of a group. So it's a great activity for class. At its heart is a central image, word, or idea. So the founder of map making, the guy who quote-unquote invented formal map making, actually encouraged students or people who do mind mapping to actually draw a picture in the middle, just so it's even more visual. But because we're language teachers, I feel it's fine to use a word as well. So anyway, that's the definition there. This fellow right here, Tony Buzan, he's written at least a dozen books on mind mapping. He actually, quote-unquote, invented formal map making. So a thinking guru, he's written 82 books that are available in 100 countries, translated into 30-plus languages. I'm sure he has books written in Korean as well, or translated into Korean that you can buy. So a fairly interesting fellow. People have always used mind maps, but the form of mind mapping that I'm going to introduce to you is a very formal one. It has specific rules. It really makes it more fun, more interesting, and easier to use. So in the middle, you can start with a word or an image, typically a word since we're teaching language. The main branches from the center need to be thicker than all of the other branches. That makes sense, right? If you look at a tree, of course the trunk is extremely wide, it's extremely thick. What about the main branches? Are they thick or thin? Kind of a little bit thick, right? And then the little branches that branch off, those are very thin and eventually just become like sticks or leaves, flowers, etc. This is also crucial so that you don't have information overload. Only use one keyword or phrase per line. Okay? You can use a phrase too, like a noun phrase, adverbial phrase, adjective phrase, doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be a single word, but it shouldn't be more than one word or one phrase, right, per branch. The other point that's extremely important here is that you need to use the same color for all minor branches from a main branch. So if the main branch, say for famous volcanoes, is blue, St. Helens, Pompeii, Jeju Island, all of those need to be blue as well. Maybe Songsan Ilchulbong, I guess that was a volcano. That needs to be blue as well. Let's see, moving on. Be as creative as you want. You can make crazy associations. Every student will have a different mind map, right? There's no right or wrong answer when it comes to mind mapping. So hopefully you'll keep these colorful reminders in mind. Now, does everyone have a pencil or a pen? We're going to do some paper-based mind mapping. I know it's blended learning, but we need to practice first. The one I'm going to show you later, the blended learning one, is a little more difficult. So, but first, everyone, if you have a piece of paper, if you have my handout, turn to the back. Hopefully, there's a blank page, I hope, at the back. If you have any blank pages, good. So we're going to practice this. Typically, actually, Tony Buzan recommends A4 paper. You can use smaller paper. Post-it note on occasion as well. So, and what you're going to do first, make sure it's in landscape orientation. So, like portrait, landscape, right? So it needs to be long, right? Hopefully everyone has that landscape orientation. Next, choose a central word, okay, in the middle. And for your word, since we've just done volcanoes, what's another natural kind of event or natural disaster type word? Not volcanoes, sorry? Earthquake, great. So we had an earthquake last year, right, in Gyeongju. So the epicenter, there's a word. So the epicenter was in Gyeongju. So anyway, let's find the word. Why don't we all do earthquakes? That'll just be to make it easier, consistent. So the main topic, right? So now, your main themes around the earthquake. So everyone will have a different mind map, but what are some major ideas for earthquakes? Anyone? Shout them out. What are some main branches? Those are called basic ordering ideas, BOI. The main, sorry? Results, good. Where? Location, yes, location, good. Maybe cause, we could do causes of earthquakes, right? Effects, people die, buildings collapse, right? There are fires, etc. What else could we do? What are some other main, sorry? Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Sorry? Rescue. Okay, so how can people be saved? Maybe technology, safety, earthquake safety as well. Earthquakes in Korean history, famous earthquakes around the world, recent earthquakes. So you see, the list is endless, right? It is pretty much endless. So I'll let you guys decide what you want. And then at the end, which of course this is optional, but you can add a second, third, or even fourth level to your mind map, okay? But when should we stop? We don't want information overload. How many levels would be appropriate? So we have the main idea, we have the BOI, right? It's a basic ordering idea, and then maybe one more level. So for me, I usually have my students stop at around level 3. After that, it gets, I feel too complicated, right? So keep it simple would be my recommendation. So if we had more time or if we had a projector, I would have someone come up and show us their mind map. Since we don't, I'll trust that everyone has a good mind map there. So moving on. Now, some basic advantages of mind mapping. I'm sure most of this is common sense, but let's have a look anyway. Time saved. You're only focusing on relevant words. So the problem in vocabulary books, the long list of words, some of the words students don't need to know, and the students know that. They're like, why are we learning this word, combustion? Such a hard word, right? So they end up zoning out, tuning out, not being interested. But mind mapping, it's up to them to find the words that are relevant. Clear associations, right? You know what the main branch is. You can draw a picture, a line between one branch and another. The brain finds it easier to, visual stuff is easier, right? I won't read the whole sentence. Everything that's visual is easier. By working from the center outwards, it encourages your students' ideas to kind of grow outwards as well. They're thinking, wow, what can I learn about this? What is related to this as well? And last but not least, work in harmony. Mind maps work in harmony with the brain's natural desire for completion and wholeness. Now you might say, how is that important? Well, let me tell you. What shape is the cover of this microphone here? It's a circle, right? When you see a square and you see a circle, which one do you naturally gravitate towards? The square? I hope not. Okay, so I don't know. I find circular shapes very pleasing. I know most people do. Circles are very whole. They make you feel, I've covered all of the words. I know everything about this topic, right? So for me, the very shape of a mind map is often very reassuring. It makes you feel, wow, I've learned a lot. I feel I know about this topic, right? So moving on here. Now, some sample mind maps. We're going to look at a whole bunch of different mind maps. And here's a list here. So I want to show you how versatile mind maps can be. It's not the simple volcano LGL stuff we learned earlier. So first, we're going to look at a mind map about mind mapping techniques. Okay, so you can learn about mind mapping from mind maps. Next, we're going to see a list of prepositions in English organized according to type. We're going to learn how to count food and drinks, so you can teach your students using these. We're going to learn different aspects of school in a mind map. We're going to talk about pastimes or hobbies using mind maps. Starting from number 5, we're getting more into like sentence structure, stuff that you would actually use. We're going to learn answers to the very easy question in every school book, how's the weather? Then we're going to learn cities, vocabulary, and even sample sentences. And finally, we're going to look at mind maps in the classroom. Okay, so how can we use mind maps in the classroom? We have 8 mind maps here. I hope I included all of them. So let's look at the first one here. So now, what do you see here? What's in the middle? Just to review, to double check, we all have learned the basics here. What's in the middle? Mind map, which is the main idea, right? Okay, now, what are the, how many BOIs do we have? The basic ordering ideas here. 6. Okay, we have dangers of mind mapping, how to mind map, personalize it or customize your mind map, benefits of mind mapping, how can we use mind mapping, and finally, how can we combine information, right, in mind mapping. So I won't go through all of these, but I do want to point out some interesting issues here. This hour, I'm going to talk about how great mind mapping is, right, but there are a few problems that I should point out. So first, dangerous, the blue. You'll notice each of them is a different color too. Blue, it's very messy, okay? Students who have bad handwriting, doesn't look pretty, right? So that's why we're going to do mobile or mobile mind mapping using blended learning. Not enough space. You'll need a pretty big piece of paper. It could be uneven. There are crowded areas. There are areas that only have like one word. So unbalanced mind mapping. So that's another issue there. The combining stuff I'll skip there. Uses You can use it at the beginning of class. You can use it to link ideas. You can use it to revise ideas for an essay. There are all sorts of ways you can use mind mapping in the classroom. Center outwards, main point in the center. Personalize it. The direction, the shape, the style, the colors, that's all up to your students. They can make it as pretty as they like, right? Benefits, it's memorable, it's interesting, creative, it's visual, lots of stuff, right? You can talk about the mind map, you can look at the mind map, you can upload it, right? It's a great tool for use in the classroom. So anyway, that was mind mapping. Now prepositions here, I hope you can see those, they're kind of small. So if you're teaching your students grammar, forget vocabulary, you can teach them grammar using a mind map too. So here we have, I won't go into these since we're all English teachers, but you have prepositions of time, prepositions of place, prepositions of movement. Students get confused. They're like, oh, which one is which? Have to make a mind map. Great way to review grammar as well. You can also teach students how to count nouns using a mind map. So for example, everyone loves eating and drinking, right? So we have a carton of milk, but we have a tin of, I don't know, tuna in Korea at least, not sausages. Sausages come in plastic, right, in Korea, slightly different. We have a jar of jam, a bunch of bananas, a packet of potato chips. And you can give your students the words in class. You can say, students, I need you to find what would come in a packet, what would come in a jar, and have them try and guess the words first, right? What else? We also have school ideas. If you're asking your students to learn words about school, if there's a passage about school, you might have subjects, school subjects, facilities, people, places, very easy stuff. This is more of a traditional mind map, right? But the next one is going to be slightly different, okay? So if you're teaching your students prepositional phrases about the seasons and you want to link seasons and pastimes or hobbies, here's a great mind map for you. My favorite pastimes. You'll notice each one is a different color, right? We have summer, winter, indoors, outdoors. You can include spatial representation as well. So you'll notice, are these single words or entire phrases this time? Phrases, right? So you can build on those words, right? Standing in the rain, lying on the beach, eating strawberries in the garden. We have great gerunds here. Swimming, hiking in the hills, right? Good stuff there. You focus on the ing form, right? So good stuff. Moving on. Here we have a picture in the middle. So how's the weather today? So we have some words, but what else are we trying to teach here? Sentence structure, right? So we have it's stormy, it's hot, it's foggy, it's snowy, but also it's snowing. So notice you can extend the word. You can teach them a new form. It's snowy. It's generally snowy. It snows in winter, but it's snowing right now, right? So notice the difference there. It's windy. It's raining. Same. For cloudy, of course, in the slightly different way, not it's clouding. That would be incorrect, but it's partly cloudy, right? My favorite, though, it's sunny on a sunny day like today, although it's a little bit hazy, but it's perfect, right? Perfect day. So good stuff there. What else? Far more difficult. If you have more advanced students, you can have them write entire sentences on the mind map. Now, Tony Buzan would probably not like this. He wanted it to be very simple, just a few words, but as English teachers, I find, as an English teacher, I find this very helpful. So if we look at traffic, we have a couple of words: cars, motorbikes, lorries, British mind map here, buses, and then we move on and say, I'm going to visit Central Park in New York. How? I'm going to visit it on foot. I'm going to visit it by bus, right? Or I'm going to take a bus, right? So we can have a couple of different sentences. We can have words, different colors, main idea in the middle. The basics are always the same, right? Okay. And finally, here we have another mind map in the classroom. Now, this is kind of my segue into paper-based mind mapping into digital or blended learning mind mapping. So in the classroom, in an educational context, what do we have here? We have tools, we have the student, of course, we have the instructor, that's us, and we have best practices, right? So if we look at the instructor, if you're going to use a mind map, obviously you need to prep a little bit. You might need a sample mind map. You might need to teach your students how to use mind mapping, just as I've done today. And then you might need to assess their mind maps. Are they clear? Are they accurate? Are they easy to read, etc., right? The students themselves, of course, they'll need to sometimes do an individual mind map, sometimes do a collaborative one, right? And that's where it kind of comes in handy, having the digital channel there. So if your students are all doing mind maps or working in pairs, working in groups, it's a lot easier if they have a digital form, right? So that's where we can move on to web-based, or in today's case, a mobile-based platform. So that's digital, it's a computer program, much easier than the paper-based analog stuff that we just did in class. So is everyone ready to look at how we can do mind mapping digitally? Okay, great. So we know we need vocabulary. We know why mind mapping is good. Let's see how we can bring it into the 21st century here. So blended learning applications of mind maps. Now, has anyone here done mind mapping before? Maybe not in class, but in your personal life, at university, when working. Anyone? Okay, I see one, not two. Okay, a couple of people. Good. But I recommend mind mapping not just in the classroom, not just for vocabulary, but for your own life too. Like, I'm pretty disorganized. Like is it LG, LGL, is it LG, LLG? I get confused all the time. If I had had a mind map, it would have been easier, right? So don't be like me, be more organized, right? So, but I just want to show you just how prevalent, how common mind mapping is. So most of you, of course, probably have an Android device. If you go into Google Play Store, you search for mind mapping, you'll see literally dozens of applications. The same goes for iTunes. If you have iOS and iPhone, iPad, there are also lots of different applications here. If you use Windows 10 in the Windows 10 store, even Windows 10, which doesn't have many applications at all, still has some free apps for mind mapping. So whatever your platform, mobile, PC, you will find a good app for mind mapping. But I'm going to talk about two special apps today, or one app and one website that will make your life much, much easier as a teacher and even better for your students. So the app that I would like to focus on today is a free app that is extremely easy to use. And full disclosure, I don't know the people who invented this app. I use it in my classes, but I am in no way connected to these people. Please don't buy the paid version. Don't waste your money. The free one is fine, right? So don't tell them I said that. But anyway, Simple Mind, free. It's a great mind map. It's available. The reason I chose this is A, it's easy to use, and B, it's available for the PC and also for both Android and iOS. So it's cross-platform and easy to use. It has a long history. It's not going to disappear. There's no virus included. It's very safe. It's a good program. So the website, which you don't need to go to, you can just search for it when we do it later, is simplemind.eu. So it's a company from Europe. Free functionality, everything you need to get started, right? No ads. I hate ads, right, in my app. So this one has no ads. No need to sign up for an account. If you pick a tool where you need to sign up for a program, half of the students will get lost before they even download the program correctly, right? So I don't like signing in, I don't like registering. I like simple, easy, free, right? So that's why this tool is good. Highlights, okay, it's easy to use, very easy. We're going to make a mind map. We're all going to do it today in this lecture. It's trustworthy and reliable. Apparently it's been around for 7 years. There are lots of updates, no viruses, very safe. But there is an issue here, okay? Because it's a free and paid application, exporting or sharing the mind maps officially requires a free version. Okay, I said officially because there's a great, do you know the term life hack? Life hack? It's like a way to cheat the system. It's a way to not pay for the full version, right? Which you can if you want, but it's a great program. But there's a very easy way that we can use the free version for the same purpose here. This life hack that I'm going to teach you here is a screenshot workaround. It's very easy. Do all of you know how to take a screenshot on your phones? Yes. Have your students take a screenshot, then they can put it in a Kakao chat group. They can upload it to your school portal system. They can send you a muncha message or whatever, right? It's very easy. There's no need to pay the 7,500원 for the full app. Really no exporting a PDF, saving a screenshot's easier anyway, right? So anyway, that's my workaround, my life hack for this particular app. Now, some interesting functions here, most of which we don't need, but still interesting to know. You can place topics anywhere you want in the tree, right? So you don't need to go in order, clockwise, counterclockwise. You can do it anywhere you want. Creativity, right? Or if your students are not as creative, you can use an auto layout. I'm going to show you two different layouts today. Unlimited page size and number of elements. But remember, tell your students, stop at level 3. Make sure it doesn't go on and on. It'll just become more confusing and complicated. It supports multiple mind maps on one page. So you can have one mind map on volcanoes, another mind map on earthquakes, another one on fires, etc. Tsunamis, right? Lots of different words there. You can apply predefined style sheets. So if your students don't know which colors to choose, the app will choose for them. You can collapse and expand branches. If you have too many words, you can press a little minus icon and all the words, the other branches will not be visible temporarily, right? And you can also highlight the branches that are important too. So it's a very, very great program, lots of different functions there. So now, here are some screenshots. We're going to use this app in a few minutes later, I mean, but you can see you can do one on one side. Each one has a different color. There's a word in the middle. There's a natural color scheme. There's a spring levels, aqua colors, lots of different color schemes. Whatever your students want to do, they can be as creative as they want, right? More screenshots here. So 2 different layouts. There's a horizontal layout, freeform layout where they can drag branches around using their fingers. Very easy stuff. And then finally, the last one, not as interesting to see, but still important. The program, even the free program, allows an unlimited number of mind maps. So you can have your students do a mind map for every single reading that they have. It'll save it automatically on their phone. No advertisements, doesn't expire. Great stuff. So let's see. So moving on here. But there's one more tool before we actually experiment, before I ask you to take out your phones and follow along. There's another slightly easier tool to use. Okay, you might say, this sounds great, but I need a mind map for class, right? I don't want to download a program, use my finger, it takes time. There's a much easier way. There's a website called text2mindmap.com there, and all you need to do is copy and paste a list of vocabulary, and the program, the website, will create your mind map for you. So it's much easier. This is also a free tool. It's available online. Go to Google, just search for text2mindmap. It's completely free. Remember, this is not an application, just a website. So it's very easy. So what I did, I went into the website. I typed out months of the year. That's the main idea. I hope everyone can see. We have 4 different seasons, winter, spring, summer, autumn, the months in each season, and it did it automatically, right? So much faster than actually clicking add node or trying to drag stuff around. So this is a great website for you. Don't tell your students about it. Would be my recommendation, right? So this website is absolutely free, so you can save your mind maps. You can also download the mind maps. By save, I mean save on the website. So if you use the same computer, it'll save all of your mind maps on the computer, and you can also download them to print them, expand them, put them on the projector, etc. So the activity today, how much time do we have left? I hope we have enough time. We have about 10 minutes left. 2 minutes, okay, so let's do this very quickly. Sorry. Open your, it's a very easy activity, don't worry. I have some screenshots there too. Open your Play Store, iTunes, whatever, and search for Simple Mind Free. Simple Mind Free, okay, very easy. Follow along if you'd like. You can install it. Then you create a central theme. That's the main idea. So for example, volcanoes or earthquakes. And then you click OK. Then you click on the menu button. So on Android, my wife used to have an iPhone. She doesn't anymore. I'm not sure what it looks like on iOS for if you have an iPhone. But on Android, it's like a few dots. That's the menu button. It's in the top right-hand corner. I'll show you a screenshot in a moment here. So you click on the menu button, you click Add, and you click Add Topic. Right? So if you have volcanoes, your first topic might be famous volcanoes. Right? Very easy. And then click OK, of course. And then you can add additional sibling topics until the mind map is complete. So results of a volcano, what's in a volcano, right? Famous volcanoes, etc. And then finally, you would take a screenshot of it. So that's different on every phone. Take a screenshot, send it to your teacher's Kakao group chat, send it, upload it to a website. You can even email it, do whatever, right? So it's very, very multi-purpose. You can use it on every platform. It's a free tool, great tool here. So before I finish, let me just show you some screenshots here. So I have about 8 screenshots here, so follow along. I hope it's not too confusing. On the far left here, when you first enter the program, I'll show you on my phone here. I use this all the time in my classes. So here's the menu. So here's simple, you probably can't see, sorry, but Simple Mind Free, you click on that. New features, no, not right now. Okay, so there's a central theme in the middle. Okay, that's your main idea. So you would just double click on that. And then, here we go, Edit Central Theme. So you can see I have the same screenshot on my phone right now. So I'll go ahead and enter volcanoes here. Volcanoes, take your pick. Let's see, there we go. Oops. Okay, so right now I have volcanoes in the middle there. In this case, I have seasons, also very easy. Now, does everyone see the 3 dots on the top right-hand corner there? That's the menu button, if you're on Android. So you would click that, and then you would click Add. Okay, the next screenshot there, also very easy. Add. Okay, then you would click on Add Topic. So don't click on Sibling Topic just yet. That would be like an equal branch there instead of an extra branch. And then you would add Winter. So we have seasons and we have winter. You'll notice they're different colors, just like my maps should be. It's all automatic. You can, of course, click on Settings, change the color if you'd like. And then, okay, winter. Maybe you're reading in winter, it snows. And then you're like, okay, your student needs to add snow. They do the process yet again. Then we have another main basic ordering idea, summer. And then we have fall, all different colors. We have our little mind map there. So very easy stuff there. I use this in class. I have my students, every time my students make a presentation, I have them create a mind map. At first, I had them hand draw it and then put it in the PowerPoint. It looked terrible. None of us could see it. But once I started telling them to use this website, this app and the website text to mind map, it was much easier. So it's a great tool. I hope it helps you. I hope you use mind mapping. And I hope you learned at least something from today's event. So have a great day. Thank you.